to talk about witchcraft. Can I just have a show of hands? How many of you would consider yourselves to be witches or Wiccan? Okay, thank you. And how many of you are here because you're just a little bit curious? Okay, and how many of you are aspiring new witches? Okay, thank you. Right, that's good. So as I talk, I do tend to waffle on a bit and lose my track. So I've got a few notes just to help me stay on record. But if you have any questions, ask me as we go along, because I lose track otherwise and forget what I've said. So there will be time for questions later as well. So I want to dispel some of the myths about witchcraft first, because people have got this association with witchcraft being quite evil, associated with Satanism and that sort of thing. So just to put you straight, devil worship? No, we don't even believe in the devil. Witchcraft is a nature religion. We worship the trees, the forests, the mountains, the oceans, the sky, the sun, the sea, all of the natural elements, and we believe that is all combined in the great energy that we refer to as God and Goddess. Our God is the lusty God of the forest. He's the stag of the hunt. He's the one who hunts the stag. And he is a horned God. He's Pan, if you know the image of Pan. He's also Cernunnos in Celtic mythology. So that's where the image of the horns comes from. And unfortunately, when Christianity came into the British Isles and took over as the mainstream religion from paganism, of course, it was associated with the devil figure. So that's where that mythology comes from. The goddess that we believe in is Mother Goddess of the Earth. You'll have heard her referred to as Gaia, or Caradwan, or Isis, or Diana. She's also the goddess of the moon. We'll talk a bit more about that later on. Some of the myths about witchcraft. Sacrifice. Humans, baby, animal sacrifice. Sadly, that may have been the case in the distant past. And we're talking many, many, many years ago. It's not something we do now. But we do offer tributes and honourings to our God and Goddess. So my sacrifice today might be a lock of my hair, or a glass of water to the old ones, or it might be donating some money to a charity. Come in, come in. No. So we're just getting started with a little bit of dispelling some of the myths about witchcraft for those of you who've just come in. We're talking about sacrifice, and we do sacrifice in terms of maybe taking something that we want, writing it down on a piece of paper, and then burning that as an offering, so that when our smoke is released into the atmosphere, our wishes go with it. The theory is that the energies of the universe will bring that back to us. We release what we want, and it's kind of like a wave of beautiful energy that bounces back to us. Another thing that people assume about witches is that we dance naked in the woods. In Britain? No way. It is far too cold, rainy, and I don't want to get thorns stuck in my backside if I sit down. So we don't dance naked in the woods unless we're in an extremely private location with just a bunch of maybe one or two close friends in our circle. It's not the norm. Ritual sex. Not really. There are 6 people in my company at the moment, so I don't know what they're doing right in front of them. It's something that has gone on and does go on in very private, intimate relationships where they're already established couples anyway. And the reason for it is that it just adds to the vibrant magic. And love is such a wonderful thing, and to experience love in a physical way, even just with a hug with a friend, gives you this amazing energy. If you've ever had a hug from May, you'll know how amazing hugs can be. And they really fill you with love and light. So that is why that sort of magic may have been done and is sometimes still done with consenting, established relationships. The pentagram, which you've all seen, has often been seen as a devil worship symbol, simply because this way up, which we call the reversed pentagram, it represents the horned god. You can see quite clearly a goatish shape here with the horns at the top. So that's why that's become associated occasionally with devil worship or that sort of thing. But it simply represents all of the elements. For its associations, we tend to have it this way up. Earth, air, fire, water, spirit, the circle that binds us all together. That's what the pentagram means. But it is also just a popular symbol. A lot of Goths wear it. So just because you see that doesn't necessarily mean somebody is a witch, although it's worth asking. We usually just like to gossip and talk about it. But that's another one. I've written down here Gothic robes and Gothic attire and long flowing gowns. If any of you have ever been to pagan pride, Pride, you'll have seen hundreds of pagans descending upon Nottingham town centre, all dressed in black or purple or red, and wearing horns or circlets or lots of glowing silver jewellery. And while it looks nice for special occasions, it's not our everyday dress. Sometimes it can get a little bit embarrassing when you come to things like this, and all of the witches are wearing spectacular cloaks. They're not very practical for running about in the woods. They get caught on everything, so I tend to wear my everyday stuff, unless I'm doing something special like a hand fasting. The other thing that people assume about witches is that we always work within a coven, and that's not strictly true at all. While a coven creates a really lovely space for people to come together and celebrate the old gods and the old ways of worshipping and magic, it creates beautiful friendships that can be really long-lasting and beneficial. But it's not the only way to practice magic, and there are lots and lots of solitary witches out there who just do their own thing in their own way, as and when they please. And you don't have to have 13 witches in the coven either, that's another myth. Another thing that people assume is that if I want to be a witch, do I have to have an initiation ceremony? No, you don't. Most of the answers to these questions are no. You don't have to do an initiation ceremony. But a lot of people like to do that because they see it as a way of marking their entry into witchcraft, especially in today's society. Most of us were brought up in the religion of our parents, which is usually, in this country, Christianity. I was brought up Church of England, and when I realised that witchcraft is my path, I took my initiation to celebrate the fact that it's kind of like a coming out to yourself. It's a way of marking, this is what I am. If you were going to be, if you're going to join any other religion, you'd have some sort of ceremony that was a baptism or the equivalent. So that's what the initiation ceremony is for. But in a coven situation, there will then be another initiation to mark your progress through the path and give you the status of high priest or high priestess. At that point, you'll be able to hold a ceremony of your own, and you'll be able to lead others through that ceremony. And the third initiation, again, the level of high priest or high priestess, confers you the ability to go out and form your own coven if you wanted to, though most people tend to stay. So, the witching path. Eric asked me to talk about witching path because that's the title of my book, which will be out in the foyer later if you want to come pick a copy up. But the title of the witching path for a talk doesn't really lend itself to this book, because the witching path for me is a journey, and a journey really doesn't have a beginning or end. It's a constant cycle of finding out a little bit more and learning more about what witchcraft means. So that's where I'd like to really start. How I got into witchcraft. Well, when other girls my age, about 10 or so, were reading Enid Blyton, or the Mallory Towers books, if any of you remember Mallory Towers, I was reading Stephen King, Dean Koontz, and James Herbert, and books like that. So I've always been a little bit into things that are perhaps not conventional. I don't start being conventional now. So I was 13, and I was at school, and there's a boy I fancied. I won't tell his name, because if anybody repeats this to my sister, she's going to kill me. So there's this boy, I'll call him John. Oh God, I wish I could get on with John, he's gorgeous. I didn't know anything like this existed. But my mother's got this little tin cut in the cupboard. And I filled a wine bottle with some water and pretended it was wine. And I took some herbs out of her spice jars and mixed it all together in this little tin. Right, that's it, John's going to ask me that tomorrow. Now what do I do with this? I didn't touch it, didn't with him. Pretended nothing had happened. The next day, sure you off. Do you want to go out with me? Whoa, it worked, wow, fantastic. It broke up with me the next day, because that's what you do when you're 13, that's what was fine, but it worked. And it made me think, there must be something to this. What was that I did? And a few years later, I discovered that there are books on witchcraft in my local library. Ooh, start reading this. And as I read the first few pages of this book, I suddenly thought, oh, that's it, that's me, that's what I am, I'm a witch. It was a real revelation to know that there's a whole religion built around what I'd instinctively done from a very early age of going out into the fields and picking daisies and counting them off to say, this is going to happen, he loves me not, sort of thing. So that's really how I got started on the journey of witchcraft. And over the years, I've developed my own eclectic style. But one of the beauties of witchcraft is we can take what we want and leave what we don't want. There are very organised ways of doing it, and there are some to just take what you like and go with it. It's very intuitive, instinctive faith. And the people ask me, well, do you have a spell book? Oh, I do, but it's so jumbled up and garbled, and I'll take a bit of this spell and a bit of that spell and mash them together to make something new. So it's a very creative path too. And when I say witchcraft, I do mean craft. I sew and I knit, and my magic goes into that as well. I wish I could do some of the other crafts, so some of the more practical stuff, like making things out of wooden carvings and so witches are people who are naturally drawn to the craft, to making stuff, to doing things practically, but also we're quite intellectual. We like to explore different religions and different faiths and beliefs from around the world, including folklore and the ways that people used to do things in the days of our grandmothers and their grandmothers, what were the instinctive, natural ways of creating magic. We're drawn to the elements and the animals, honouring the ancestors. The beloved dead, as we call them, are incredibly important to us. And one of our festivals, Samhain, revolves around honouring our ancestors very, very heavily. But daily life is a little bit different from a witch than it would be for anybody else. We tend to have a lot of candles and a lot of incense, and because you're in this type of thing, you probably have too. Got loads and loads of crystals around the house, and if I'm feeling sad, instead of bringing up my mum to chat, oh no, it's dreadful, I'll go and see a tree, and I'll say, oh tree, it's dreadful, and usually I get a little bit of response from the tree. It sounds a bit odd, but I don't care, I'm a bit odd. Trees can give us a lot, nature gives us so much, and that's why we like to connect with it as often as we can by going just for a walk to work. If you pass through a particular path that's got a tree on it, we just take a notice. Just to notice its colours at the time of year. Is it autumn? Is it red? Is it just springing back to life after winter? So nature is incredibly important to us. We can feel the ground from our feet giving us energy as we're walking. We can feel the sky pouring love and light down into us. And a very, very easy, simple exercise to do, just kind of like the tree of life around it, is just to stretch one hand down and one hand up and pull earth and sky to converge in your heart chakra and just relax with it and let that settle in you, and the experiences that you get from that just make you feel so centred and serene and a little bit more whole and full of life and vitality. We also do things that seem a little bit odd to our work colleagues. I'm very lucky that I've come out at work as a witch, and they're very supportive. And in fact, they let me have days off to go and celebrate things like Samhain, which is really fantastic. They're very, very blessed. My boss, who sits directly opposite me, is a Christian minister, as well as working for Highways. And the day, somebody saw my pentagram tattoo and said to me, what's that there? It's a lovely tattoo, I wrote. No, that means something. You've got earrings that match it. They're either going to like it or hate it. What are we going to say? He said to me, are you pagan? Yes. And my box pipes up, are you Wiccan? Yes. We've just learned that about my church. I'm thinking, oh boy. But luckily, they're incredibly understanding and supportive. Even of the little things that I've got on my desk at work. I've got a little sprig of rowan berries that are dry herbs that I collected near the Fortingall Yew in Scotland, which is a 5,000-year-old yew tree. I've got a pyramid smoky quartz crystal that was given to me by a friend I worked with about 20 years ago for my birthday. And I've got a little oak gall on my desk. And those few things just remind me every day that I've got a connection to people and places that I love that are important. And when I'm having a bad day at work, if I have a bad phone call with a customer or things aren't quite going to plan, I can pick that up and go, oh, it's okay because I'm loved. And crystals give you so much energy anyway that it's really lovely to have something around you can just grab instantly. So I've got all these little bits on my desk. So witchcraft comes into our lives every day, whether we're aware of it or not. I've got lavender hanging up in my kitchen. I've got a little spell that I did when we moved house. I wanted to put some positive energy, so I did a little spell, backed it up in some orange cloth and stuck it above the door, so that when everybody comes through the doorway, they get just a little blitz of this beautiful energy that makes the house a peaceful and happy place. And it has been, it really has, it's been lovely. So, witchcraft with our festivals. So I just like to spend a little bit of time talking about that, because it is really one of the core aspects of witchcraft and paganism in general. There's no starting point because it's a circle, there's no beginning, no end. But for me, the start of the year is always where things start to liven up after winter. So I'll start there with Imbolc, I-M-B-O-L-C. Imbolc is the festival that is called Oimelc as well, and that means used milk. It's the 1st of February, and we celebrate it at dawn if we can. And we have snowdrops on our table, because snowdrops are the first sign of things coming back into life after winter. It's the first stirrings of spring. It's the passion that gets your soul thinking, oh hey, we're going to have some light weather, it's going to start to get nice again. So Imbolc is a really, really lovely time of year. And lambs are often born at this time too, so we often have milk there to represent the new life that's coming into the world. Interestingly, human babies are often born at Imbolc too, because at the start of May, we have a festival called Beltane, which is the season of love, and 9 months later is Imbolc. So there's it's a very intricate, intermingled cycle of one festival leading into the next. So Imbolc is that first story, that the birthing of spring and that re-emergence of everything that's positive and fruitful. We plant seeds at Imbolc, as farmers do, to kickstart our lives into action. So a lot of magic in Imbolc revolves around planting things. And that leads into Ostara, which is the spring equinox, usually on the 21st of March. And Ostara, we have the goddess, just starting to get a little pregnant belly. She's growing things now. The seeds we planted 6 weeks ago are now starting to grow. So the goddess is getting fertility into the soil, and it's all starting to come up. Any plans that we put into place, we should really be working towards those by Ostara. Often associated with the corn goddess series as well. The next one after that's probably my favourite festival, the 1st of May, Beltane. Hooray for the brave, for the 1st of May, outdoor things begin today. It was the traditional time for weddings and hand fastings in the Middle Ages, because it's warm enough to be outside and celebrate. It's warm enough to get down to a t-shirt and shorts and go out and have fun, and it's light enough to stay out longer in the evenings. So it's a real festival party atmosphere of Beltane, and I absolutely think it's one of my favourite festivals. The overriding theme of Beltane, with the god and the goddess, he turns into this randy old stag, and he chases her as a hart through the forest. And when they catch and mate, it's the union of female and male. It's the time of where things are really starting to come together. He impregnates the goddess, and she later gives birth to Imbolc. And Beltane is a very lusty time for the pagans. There's often a lot of dancing, lots of parties. It's a really real expression of love and joy and passion and just a warmth. Yes, it's sunny, thank goodness, after winter. It's so nice, and we recognise that and honour that at Beltane. That leads through to summer solstice, which we're coming up to in a couple of weeks' time. Litha, it's the 21st of June, and it's a point of balance. The sun is at its height. We've got the longest day, and so we stay out late. We worship the sun, and the rising of the sun the next day was just a couple of seconds later. Sooner than it was the previous day. So there's that change. It's like a tipping point. We can gradually see from now on the days winding down. We've had our longest day, but we haven't had our warmest days. They're still to come. So when we celebrate Litha, we know that we've still got a lot more of summer, a lot more growing season to do. We know that things are still, they're growing, crops are growing in the fields, we're growing our projects and planting our seeds for what we want to grow in our lives. And the god and the goddess are starting to grow too. The goddess isn't by now, her pregnant belly's really getting quite big, and she's feeling quite full and going to be a proud mum. And that cycle then leads around to the autumn equinox of Mabon, or some people call it Madron, which I don't really like, it doesn't roll off the tongue very nicely. That's, sorry, down this one out, Lammas. Litha, the summer solstice, moves into Lammas, which is the 1st of August. Again, Lammas is a celebration of the crops growing in the fields, and we usually have bread at Lammas, preferably homemade, or cakes and biscuits, and we have a big feast. We do a lot of feasting. We feast every festival, really. But Lammas is what we call the first fruits festival, so we're just starting to see the fruits and the flowers on the trees. that are remarkable. The things we've planted have now started to bear fruit. So by this time of year, any rituals and magics would be done for change. So moving from one state into another. We've planted, we grow, now we're starting to harvest. There's out in Nottingham to Nottingham, which is a real harvest festival, middle of September, the 21st. It's when the Christians have their harvest festival around that time too. And it's a corn festival. We've got a series again is on here. And the days are starting to get shorter. We're winding down towards winter. And Nottingham is a time of reflection and giving thanks. We give thanks for the people in our lives. Thank you so much for all my friends who come here today to support me, some of you I haven't seen for a long time. We give thanks to the fact that we've had a great summer. We've got a house to live in, we've got somewhere solid to stand and say this is my home, we've got work, we've got things in our lives that we give thanks for, whatever it is, even if it's just I'm alive today, thank you. The next one is Samhain, what most people call Halloween, the 31st of October. It's the second favourite of my festivals, and I was very honoured to be given a special leave religious day to take that last winter from work. We call it the Festival of the Beloved Dead. They are so, so important to witches. The ones that we've lost, the ones that we've passed over, even people that we may not have known. They're all our ancestors. They've all contributed in some way to life here today on earth. Whether that's my favourite author who passed away last year, James Herbert. Thank you for what he gave me. Wow, the books I've read. So this time I could put his picture on the altar, one of his books. But mostly it's about family. It's about a time of honouring the fact that we've all had people we've lost who we love so much. And we give them offerings. And it may be something that they like, their favourite flower, or a toy car if they were into cars, or if they were a farmer, we might put some corn or a toy animal on the altar to say, we loved you, we remember you, thank you for what you gave us. And we often, if we're having a family dinner that evening, we will put an extra plate out or an extra fork so that they're invited in spirit to be with us, to still take time to spend with their families if they're in a position to come back to us. We don't generally summon anything because souls have their journey, and I don't want to interfere with that. Most of us don't. So the souls are invited if they're able and happy to come to join us at Samhain. It can be quite a sad time of year if you've had a recent bereavement, but we're there with our friends and family for support. And then we come to what people call Christmas. We call it Yule. 21st of December, winter solstice. It's the darkest, shortest, most miserable time of the year. And since about the end of October, right up until the beginning of February, there's not really much going on. It's a dark, quiet time, which is cold and we don't go out very much, and it's all snowy and blowy and grotty. So why not have a party to celebrate? For goodness sakes, we reach that tipping point, that balance point again. It's the shortest day. Tomorrow is longer. Only by 2 seconds, but it's longer. It's getting lighter, it's getting lighter. Yes, let's celebrate. What better thing to celebrate in the middle of a dark, dreary winter? Get together with your friends. Have something nice to read, put something decent on telly. Just, yeah, we're here, it's winter and it's not going to be winter much longer. Yes, because we can see that day's getting longer tomorrow. So that's what Yule is all about. But of course, it's really associated with Christmas these days, and the commercial aspect of Christmas is so difficult to get away with. But I manage it by saying, please don't get any gifts. Come round and have dinner with me instead. And I really, really love putting on a big do. Virtually everybody I know comes to my house at some point around the winter solstice, just for a bit of a get-together. One year I knitted hats for my family members as a Christmas present, because they still celebrate Christmas. I don't want to take that away from them. I'd like to do something practical that I've made, because I can put my love and my joy and my good intentions into my gifts that way. So I don't have to go out and buy stuff and queue for hours in horrible shops full of rowdy blah, 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 blah. I can just do my own knitting at home. I'm quite happy doing that, and then I give people something that's been made. They appreciate it more. I've got the joy of making something which I love, and it makes everybody happy. And it's brilliant. I love doing that at your time. So that's the wheel of the year. That shortest day leads on gradually towards Imbolc, when things are starting to come back to life again. and the background at the start of the circle that just carries on. This is not the start of the circle, it just continues in this beautiful, everlasting wheel of life, this wheel of the year. The wheel of the year also corresponds really nicely to the 4 elements. The elements of witchcraft: earth, air, fire, water, spirit. Well, there are 8 festivals, and we break that up into 4 of the elements, the physical ones: earth, air, fire, water, spirit. The first 2 festivals, Imbolc and Ostara, when things are starting to wake back up into life and come alive again, that's associated with the element of air, which is obviously our breath, our communication, our dreams and ideas and inspirations. So they're associated with air because that is the start of magic. All magic starts with air. It starts with an idea, and then we communicate that. Beltane and Letha, the 2 first summer festivals, are associated with the element of fire, especially the summer solstice. So fire is about creativity, transformation, the passion, the drive that gets us going to keep that magic spirit up. And we celebrate that in the summertime. And the Bon and Lammas are associated with water. Water is the element of buoyancy and balance. And the magic that we throw out goes out to us on a tide and comes back on a wave. Very much like water. So water, halfway around, just over halfway around the surface, the process of that going out and coming back to us, we know it's coming back. And we can feel that gentle wave weaving its way back to us in our magic. Then moving back around the circle to the winter festivals of Samhain and Yule, we have the element of earth. Earth is associated with caves, dark trees, and the earth itself, the very ground we walk on. And in magic, that is the culmination of all. It is manifestation, solidity, bringing things into being. It's the materialisation of all that we've planned. We've had our ideas, we have the passion to keep going, we have the wave that brings it back to us. Now we have the manifestation with earth. So those 2 festivals are associated with the element of earth. I don't know what wants to get through. We spoke a little bit earlier about the God and the Goddess, so I'll skip that bit and go straight to what people really want to know. Does magic work? Oh yes, it does. Magic works for several reasons, and I like to think of magic as a circle, with me not necessarily in the centre, but in the circle somewhere. And from me is a little thread going all over the place. It goes up, it goes down, it goes behind me, it goes everywhere. And that thread of energy connects us. And it connects us. And you to her, and you to him. It connects everything. It connects you to the ground, to the air, to the light fixtures, to the tables. And that web of life, that web of weird, as some people call it, is the energy system into which we put our magic. If you just rub your palms together quickly for me, and then copy me. Nice and slow. And hopefully, when you get to about here, you may start to feel a little tingle, a little something that you can't quite feel, but you may think there's something there. Just draw your hands back a few times to see where that is and see. Can anybody feel that? Yeah? That is the energy that we raise when we do magic. And when we cast it out onto the web, off it goes. It shoots off in hundreds of different directions. It may be, if I'm doing this now, to get a new job. The new job will be advertised in the paper. And then there'll be interviews, and then this person will interview me, and then that person will decide who gets the job. And then eventually somebody will decide a starting date, and I'll start the new job. So there's lots of little steps to go through. And that magical energy that we raise in the ritual goes off to the newspaper. Yeah, you might print this advert on this day. Yeah, okay, that's done. We've organised that for you. Now we're going to make sure we see that advert. And then another little bit of magical energy goes off on a tangent to the person who may think, oh, this person's like a good candidate. We'll interview them. Then a little bit of magical energy comes back to make sure they phone me when I'm in, and I don't miss their phone call and think, oh no, and they through to somebody else. So this magical energy goes off on these threads all over the place, hundreds of different reasons that I'll never know about. And when water comes around, it bounces back to me, and my earth is the manifestation when they phone me to say, well done, you've got it. And that did happen recently. I got a new job last year, which I'm really pleased with. So yeah, magic does work. because we send that energy out with very, very clear intentions. And for those of you who are witches or who are just starting to practice, I believe that you'll all agree with me when I say that clear intention is the one key that makes magic work. Absolute intention, absolute focus. Without it, you may as well just not bother. So how do we bring that focus into being? Well, there are lots of ways of doing magic. We can do magic by chanting a mantra over and over again. For example, I'm getting the job, they've offered me the job, I'm getting the job, I'm getting the job. Raising with some energy, putting that out into the universe with some positive intentions, maybe lighting up some candles. Some of you who even aren't witches probably familiar with the aspect of candle magic and how lighting a particular coloured candle for a certain reason will hopefully bring you what you're looking for. I know a lot of religions like candles as a prayer, and they do work beautifully with that. So magic is almost like a prayer in that sense. We offer our souls to the universe and let the universe then respond by bringing us what we're looking for. But candle magic's really cool, but what I really love doing are poppets. This is another probably one of the risks that I should disclose to begin with, really. We've heard about voodoo dolls. We do use those. We do. We get little pockets. We sew the figure of a rough figure of a person. Now, with only ever positive intentions for a person, usually for healing, we get an image of that person. Sew it into a little doll. Doesn't matter how big it is or what colour it is. Fill it with beautiful lavender herbs for relaxation. Maybe shove some sage in there for strength of spirit. Maybe some rose quartz for healing. Sew it up. And we bless and name that. So let's suppose my friend Jane is really chronically ill. I'll call that puppet Jane. Little Jane, dear little doll, I name you Jane, represent her. Then I will raise some energy in my circle and I'll give it to the doll. Because Jane might live 100 miles away and may not be able to get to her. And when we do that with positive intentions, it eliminates all the thoughts of voodoo magic. This is what poppets were really designed for healing, for helping, and for using as a focus. Because if everybody's looking at the same thing in the circle of the job covenant, there's nothing but that to focus on. So it's a really clear channel of energy that takes that straight from us off to Jane in her hospital bed so that she can get the energy. We can even post that puppet to her if she's amenable to it. So she's actually got it and she can hold it and receive that energy in her heart and in her soul. So we do use dolls. I have known witches who've also used pins in the same way somebody would use acupuncture to pinpoint a specific target area of the person that needs healing. For example, they've broken their arm. So you pop a pin in to say, this is the point where that healing energy is going to. So yes, we do use little poppets. I love poppets. We also have poppets or dolls on our altar to represent the goddess or the born god. I love Madame dolls, and I often knit them. One of the beautiful things about witchcraft for me is that it is a craft. Whatever we can do, we can use in our spell work. And because we love our crafts, for example, a carpenter will enjoy doing his carpentry. And if he whittles down with a stick and carves in a rune shape or a pentagram, he's then able to put his heart and soul into that because he loves it so much, and it will be more potent and more powerful when he gives that to a friend who's maybe looking for a new car or whatever purpose he's done it for. So I really love the fact that witchcraft is very practical too. Witchcraft can be done for lots and lots and lots of reasons. Getting a new job, a new car, moving house, looking for a lost pet or a lost person. Magic can be done for healing, for love, for all kinds of reasons. And people do say to me, well, if it works, how come you haven't won the lottery yet? A good question. But I'm competing against thousands and thousands and thousands of other people who are also trying to do a spell to win the lottery. And to be honest with you, winning the lottery is not what would make me happy. I'm happy with my family, my friends, and my activities. So I don't really need to win the lottery. I'm already rich without being monetarily rich. I'm just going to check the time. We haven't really got huge amounts of time, so I want to give you plenty of time for questions and answers. But one thing I will talk about briefly is the magical circle. the magic circle is a way of creating sacred space, which some of you who meditate will probably already do anyway, naturally. You'll just clear your head, tidy it a bit, light a few candles, maybe put some incense or some aromatherapy oils on, and just have a moment to just sit in the space before you start to meditate. And in that way, you create a beautiful atmosphere for carrying out your meditation. Witchcraft takes that a little bit further. We deliberately set a specific boundary that we call the magic circle. And again, it's just a shell of this energy. It's not really a circle, it's a bubble. It's like a massive sphere that goes above us and below us, under the ground. And my lounge is about this wide. So my circle is this wide. A massive circle like that. Sorry. It encompasses everybody who's in the room. But it goes up that far as well. So I can't reach the top of my circle. So we have to just will it up there. And I had an interesting experience some time ago. I was giving a workshop to some people who were learning. And it came to lunchtime. And I said, well, we better take the circle down so we can leave the circle. Because if you just look at that energy suddenly, it's very jolting, very jarring. And my friend said to me, but then we'll just have to spend ages taking the circle down and then casting it again. Why don't we just create a massive doorway here and just bring the energy down to floor level so we can come and go and then just raise it up again. And it worked a treat. It's the first time I've done anything like that some years ago. It was a really, really nice way to experiment with the energy of the circle. Another thing that I want to touch on briefly is divination, because witches love a bit of divination. It's quite a big part of our lives. I've even got an app on my phone, which is, it's called the Omen app. And I press the buttons and it goes, oh, and 3 little Omen symbols appear for your day. Bing, bing, bing. You're going to have some luck today. You're going through a period of transition. Somebody will love you today. And it's not always accurate, it's on my phone, but it's just a lovely way of bringing a little bit of a reminder of my connection to the trees of the Omen into my life on an everyday basis, because I don't carry my own around with me in my handbag. So we are suckers for divination. We do tarot, we do runes, we do Owen, we do palmistry, tea leaf reading. I've got a friend who reads coffee grounds in a cup. And I've got another friend who does this freaky thing with water. She's washing up. And then suddenly, in the water appears the images of whatever she's got on her mind that day, if she's had problems at work or she's thinking about a particular friend. As she's washing up, these images appear to her spontaneously. I'm thinking, wow, divination is cool, divination rocks. But it also takes us back to the folklore of our ancestors and the natural ways of magic. A few days ago, I work in Ollerton, and it's been called the earthquake capital of the UK, and it really is. We've had at least 80 earthquakes in Ollerton since December. They've only been very minor ones, we don't always feel them. But the other day, I was sat at work, a couple of weeks ago, and I had the earthquakes for a while, or I haven't felt it, I wonder if it's still happening, so I'm Googling. And something distracts me, and I look out the window, and I see a bird fly up really suddenly, followed by about 15 to 20 other birds, just whoosh. And I just had this, there's going to be an earthquake in a minute. Oh, I was doing something, wasn't I? I was looking at earthquakes. No way. I kid you not. And my friend says to me, did you feel the earthquake? Yes. Why did you say something? They would have been really freaked out. It would have been funny, but I didn't get it quiet. So things like that are the ways that everyday witchcraft comes into our life. It's about noticing the little things. It's about noticing that you know, it's going to be windy, it's going to rain a bit. It's about noticing that as I'm walking to work, the trees are starting to burst into life, and there's the first little speck of orange coming through on that tree, and there's this tree, the apple trees with their beautiful blossoms just starting to form. And on really, really windy days in sort of late May, you can feel this chill in the air, and you just know that soon those blossoms are going to just fall like beautiful summer snow. So we do a lot of divination, and some of it doesn't have to be 72 tarot cards to learn, which I know what I have. So we do a lot of healing. We use a lot of crystals. We do fire magic too, in divination through the little shapes and sparks that you get in fire, either in the smoke that drifts off or in the embers as they burn, and you get that beautiful glow of the embers in a fire. So It's 20 to 4 now. I'm going to shut up for a minute and see what questions you've got, because I've rabbited on quite a bit. We need to leave a little bit of time for the next talk, so I'll save you a break. Yes. Yes, I've got worry dolls and I do use them. Worry dolls are absolutely brilliant. Worry dolls, you tell me worries. You can buy them for £1 or £2 in many shops. No, they are lovely. They came from Guatemala and they were designed for children who stress about things and get anxious and can't sleep. And the idea is that you take a worry doll out and you say, worry doll, I'm worried about my lost dog. Please help me find her. And you put your worry doll onto your pillow and you go to sleep, because you know that that doll is worrying for you. And in the morning, you take it out and you say thank you, you put it back in its little bag until you need it again. And they really do work. We used them with my daughter a lot when she was little, and I've got my own set of worry dolls I use occasionally. They're absolutely lovely. And they're so tiny, they fit in a pocket or anything, so you can take them down with. They're really lovely. Yeah. I think they're shopping the World Master Centre called Evolution size. We've got loads. Yeah. Anything else anybody would like to know? Yeah?
When do you know the time is right to cast a spell?
Oh, whenever I need to cast one, I'll do it regardless of the phase of the moon or the time of day. Because new moon is for bringing things into being. It's very positive energy for healing, fertility, new things and starting ideas. The full moon is a time of culmination and achievement. So if I want to achieve something or I'm ready to get it now, I'll use the full moon. And the dark moon is for getting rid of things. So you can use it for binding people from gossiping about you or getting rid of bad habits, that sort of thing. But if my friend's really poorly, she needs some healing energy, I'm not going to wait until the next new moon. I'm going to get rid of her illness. I can change what I think about the way I do magic. Or if somebody wants fertility, they're trying to conceive. And that is really ideal on a Friday, at dawn, in the middle of Imbolc. How often does Imbolc fall on a Friday? And how often am I going to be up and awake and about at dawn on a Friday? That's not going to happen. New moon would be the best time for that too. But if it's full moon, I work on their achievement of having a child rather than the start of the process, which would be the pregnancy. I'll focus on them having a child and achieving what their goal is. So any time of year, any time of day, any time of night, you can do a spell for your purpose. You just have to perhaps alter slightly the way you think about it. Instead of getting rid of bad habit, you can invite a new habit in. Sorry? The void of the moon. Oh. So the void of the course is when it's, I'm not very good at astrology, but am I right to think that's when it's between two different star signs? That's my interpretation, that's my understanding of it, yeah. Void of course moon, it depends partly on what phase the moon is in, whether it's a waxing moon for positive, or whether it's a waning moon for getting rid of things. But between the star signs, you could do magic for any star sign at all, because the moon is travelling through a no place almost. So you can really access the energies of spirit much more deeply than you could when the moon is in Taurus, for example, which is very earthy energy. Or if the moon's on its way to Gemini, which is I think one of the fire signs, then you would be able to do a ritual that was for a water sign, or rather than waiting a couple of days until the moon's changed into that fire sign. Yes? Yeah. Yeah, we still use those in our rituals today, either as an offering or for some specific medical purpose, if we've got medical herbalism knowledge, which unfortunately I don't actually. But yes, it does go back centuries, absolutely to the beginnings of time. The wise women and midwives and healers of the day were the ones who were called witches, and they did use an awful lot of herbs. It was their they're vital essential medicines, as well as having psychic uses. For example, rosemary is very, very good for intellect. And so we would use it, we would burn rosemary if we want to study for something and remember what we're learning. Or we would use cedar as a cleansing herb on a ritual fire to purify the space before using lavender on it as a healer and a calming influence. And it does go back absolutely centuries and centuries and centuries. And even today, some witches will wear a crown of rosemary if they're studying for an exam, or they will give it to their children. So it's got a massive, massive long use, yeah. Ah, yes, right, no, yeah, they do. I don't personally use anything psychoactive, and I wouldn't necessarily recommend it. Some people do, yeah, still use that for achieving an enhanced state of psychic ability, an enhanced sense of being between the worlds. When you're feeling a little bit, even just being around too many crystals for a while can make you feel a little bit, whoa, spacey. And that state is perfect for making magic, because we're really in touch with the energies of the universe, and we can send things out much more strongly, much more quickly and easily in that state. So that's why the psychotropic effects of certain drugs, mushrooms, plants have been used in the past. You can still, I've got a little bottle of called flying on, so I don't know, it's just a few herbs which are supposed to enhance your psychic abilities, but I wouldn't recommend these actual drugs during the ceremony, of course. But yeah, thank you, that's an interesting question, yeah. Lavender, oh God, I love lavender, it's my favourite herb. It's the only thing I can manage to grow in my garden. Everything else gets eaten by the slugs. So I absolutely love lavender. I use it quite a lot. I love the smell of it when I burn it. I love it as a massage oil. It's very, very good for headaches if you rub it on your temples just here. And a lavender bath is very, very relaxing, very calming. Yeah, what do you have in mind? What do you do with lavender? For soul healing, I wouldn't necessarily go with herbs on their own. I would combine that with some really, really deep meditative work. Perhaps a shamanic drum beat in the background, just a... because that's roughly the same rate as your elevated heartbeat, which means your brain is focused on your body. And when that happens, we get into a state where we're really in touch with everything that we are. And then that opens the pathways up for a deep journey or a deep meditation to reconnect and bring your soul back home and heal it and make it well and healthy again. So for soul healing, I do a whole ritual. I wouldn't just have a lavender massage. I would have something much more deep, much more intense and powerful. So I might meditate in front of a fire and see some little shapes and images in there that I'm thinking, what's my soul needed to be healed? Maybe fire will give me some answers. And then I might think, right, well, I know what I need to do now because I've got it from the fire. I need to reconnect part of my soul that may have wandered off because it was sad, whatever my problems are. Then I'll cast a sacred space to contain any energies, to create a safe boundary. Then I'll do some deep meditation work and I'll ask my soul, come home to me, come home to me. And I know it sounds a little bit odd, but these sorts of things do work, and it's if you look up shamanic soul retrieval, you'll get a better sense. Yeah. Fantastic. Yeah, but just that. It's incredibly powerful. It just switches your brain off, so you can really focus. Yeah. Anything else? That's one of the things that we make sure that we do, is to make sure that ancient goddess, hear my call, may this spell work for the good of all. We only ever do things with positive intentions. Anybody who does anything else is not a real witch, in my opinion. They can go down the path and get their soul to hell if they want to. But on my path, positive intentions, and we state that, let this spell work for the good of all. One of the tenets of witchcraft, we don't have any rules because there isn't a book to follow as such, but one of the things that we all agree on is, if this harm none, do what thou wilt. So if it harms none, I can do it. And if you do something with it with negative intentions, my goddess isn't going to let me do that. She's going to say, oh, that's not working. My goddess is carried with the moon. She's also a very earthy goddess. She's really kind of down to earth, and she wouldn't let me get away with something like that anyway. Negative energy always tends to be bound back towards you if you send it out. If you intentionally send out negative energy, it's going to come back to you. We do say there's a law of threefold return, which means that if I curse her once, I'm going to be cursed 3 times. And no witch worth of salt is going to put that on her plate. So we do it with positive intentions. Let this spell work for the good of all. Let it harm them. Yeah, so we've got a bit of a catch-all that we think about what we're doing and how's that going to affect somebody. Even down to healing. Is it okay if I give you some healing? If you don't want it, that's fine, I don't do it. So we do have an ethical code that we try and stick to.
Are there such things as witch?
Yes, there are, but it's a phrase that has been used so that people know. When I say I'm a witch, people go, ooh. If I say I'm a white witch, oh. It is, yeah, it's to dispel the preconceptions. And it's to make it clear, I do positive magic. I don't particularly like the term white witches because that implies that there are black witches who will do evil magic, and I don't really like to think of that. I like to think that actually we've all got goodness in our hearts. I used to do many tarot readings, and I've read tarot for hundreds of people, and I've never seen a dark soul ever. Even people who've been really, really in a bad place, they've all got love and joy in their hearts because we're all connected with the same higher power. So if I've got goodness in my heart, I know they've got it there somewhere too. So I do like to think that when we use the term white witches, that means all of us. So we don't need to use it because we're all like that. Yeah.
Moving on from that, on a practical level, historically, witches have been persecuted quite badly, to be honest, and it's basically based through fear. Do you experience any of that now?
Yes, we do, yeah. I'm 42. I'm sorry? It is, yeah. It's ignorance, it's misinformation, it's taking things the wrong way. It's not being bothered to find out about anything. I'm 42, and I started my current job almost a year ago, and this is the first time in my adult life I've ever told anybody at work that I'm a witch. And I wasn't going to. They noticed my pentagram, and I thought, they're going to kill me. But they didn't, they were lovely. But yeah, there is still a lot of prejudice about there, and there's still a lot of antagonism towards us even sometimes.
Christianity who killed lots of witches and wizards, and it's still being taught today in the churches.
Yes, it is, yeah, unfortunately.
It's actually, separation, division.
Yeah, it's really not. It's really quite disturbing. But there are 2 spectrums to that, because a friend of mine who's a witch has got a friend of hers who is a Christian vicar. And this friend said, I've got to go to some silly conference about pagans, will you come with me? And Jan's like, okay, I will do, but I'm going to sit back and not tell anybody. She said, that's fine, I just want somebody to go with me, I can giggle with at the back. And they sat and giggled at the back. But while they were there was a leaflet that said how evil Buffy the Vampire Slayer was, because it teaches children about the vileness of witchcraft. And at that point, they both got up and left. So that's one side of Christianity. But then my boss, we have some fantastic conversations at work. Because he's a Christian, he can, he did tell me the term for it, he's not a lay preacher, he's more than that. He can do births and funerals and all that sort of thing, so he's quite high up in his church. And we've agreed that actually he and I have got the same God, we just call it different things. And it's just a joy, it's an absolute eye-opener to realise that not everybody's like that. Yeah, so we're getting this, isn't we? Yeah. Anything else? Thank you. Well, I used to, yeah. When I was younger, I used to get quite arrogant. Well, witchcraft is about this and this and this, and you don't know what you're talking about. But now I've mellowed a bit, and I just say, yeah, okay, go for it, bring it on. I don't have to have you believe it as well. But if I do get negative comments now, do you know, actually I can't remember the last time that happened. Probably a few years ago now. It does still happen. You do still hear snide comments, but they aren't directed at me personally, which is fine. I'll relate a little story. A friend of mine, I'll use the name John again since it's just easy than saying the person's name. We were at a stone circle recently, and we'd all come there in a spiritual manner to embrace the lovely energies. And as we were walking up to the stones where John had never been before, this lady comes past with her, I think she's got a dog or something. And she just wasn't saying, oh, come on, let's dance around the stones like they used to do in ancient times. And John just went, are you kidding me? She heard him. And she went, and she's like, sorry, and walked off. So, just glaring at people a little bit sometimes works. Do you really realise what you just said? And how silly that sounds in this day and age, when we're supposed to be in an all-embracing, love and light culture, just pointing out people who are being very nice is sometimes enough to make them shut up. Thank you. Anything else? Okay? Thank you so much for coming. It's been nice to talk to you all. I've got some copies of the book out in the foyer, so if anyone would like a copy, it's got lots more interesting, witchy stuff in there. Thank you so much. I hope you will enjoy the rest of your day. I'll feel so you can get to